few surgeons also on mind, I've made this presentation very simple. I think if you look into the evolution of refractive surgery over last 25 years, from PRK to microkeratome flaps to femto flaps to SMILE, again going back to trans PRK, there is huge amount of evolution. So whatever the procedure which was familiar or was famous 10 years back is not outdated these days. Still we are dependent on these sort of procedures. So keeping in this mind, I am just going to tell you in brief the pearls of femtoLASIK. We are all aware of this, the physics of femtoLASIK. Earlier when it was discovered, it was just made to make some corneal lamellar incisions. There was evolution in the energy settings of this femtoLASIK also. This works on the principle of photo disruption. It releases CO2 and O2 radicals which cleaves the tissue, and it is very target specific, and it doesn't have any thermal effects also, and it falls in the infrared range. These are the basic things. And when initially we started doing femtoLASIK way back in 2007 to till the discovery of the SMILE platform, interlace was very much familiar, but it was having a scleral section. Patient would develop some subconjunctival hemorrhages, but now these days we are using a SMILE platform to make the femto this thing, and it's a corneal based and very soft docking, and hardly the IOP goes around 30 millimeters of mercury. When you compare the flaps of femto with the microkeratome, there are so many advantages. First one is, with the microkeratome, if you tend to make a flap of 130 microns, you tend to get a thicker flaps in a thicker corneas and thinner flaps in a thinner corneas. But with the femto flap, the deviation is hardly 5 to 10 microns. Even if you make a 90 micron flap, since these flaps are planar in nature, they are very stable, and you can rule out all the microkeratome related flap complications with femto. Centration is a big issue with microkeratome. If the patient's corneal diameter is on the extreme range, because of the cyclotorsion, you may lose the centration and land up having a eccentric flaps. But here, computerized, you can just monitor and you can centralize your flaps. And the healing of this femto flaps are better. They heal by fibrosis at the margin, and they have very greater resistance to trauma. And as I mentioned, SMILE platform femtoLASIK IOP raise hardly goes until 30 to 35, whereas with microkeratomes it almost goes till 60 to 70. Other advantages being, since the bed which is created by the femto based procedures are smoother, so the alteration in the aberrations is very much minimal, and we do get a 90-degree planar cut. The incidence of happening the epithelial ingrowth is literally very less with femtoLASIK procedures. If we have to comment upon the contrast sensitivity, the thesis behind the alteration of contrast sensitivity, because we are disrupting the corneal lamellae by making the flap. But since you are uniformly cutting here, contrast is better retained with femtoLASIK patients. So this is to describe how the flap looks with femtoLASIK, whereas with microkeratome you get a menisci flap thinner in the center and thicker at the periphery. And added advantages are, we do not recommend the microkeratome flaps just to prevent the complications of free cap and the buttonhole in steep and the flat corneas, but here we can just go ahead and do. And there are few anatomical abnormalities where deep set eyes, prominent brows, where you have difficulties in keeping the microkeratome flaps. Yes, femtoLASIK works well. So this is to just show you that microkeratome, we need to select the ring size based upon the K value, but those things are not so important with femtoLASIK. And the disadvantage of femtoLASIK is, again, you have to invest more on the machine. If at all, if the patient comes back with the tendency of recorrection, lifting a femto flap is very difficult when compared with the microkeratome flaps. And as I mentioned, complications are literally very less. I have literally not seen any complication which has happened after doing 6 to 7,000 femtoLASIK procedures. This to just show you the 90-degree cut of the margin. This is a chart showing the complication where which is little less. Transient line sensitivity was an issue with earlier days femto machines. With these energy settings, I think it's not at all documented. Last 7 to 8 years, SMILE has come, and it has been marketed that as it is the only solution, single step procedure for all refractive errors. Myself being a high volume SMILE surgeon, I still prefer to do femtoLASIK even in spite of having the SMILE. If you see, the wow factor is slightly lacking with the SMILE, but that wow thing is there with femtoLASIK. And whenever patient comes with pre-existing IR aberrations, I prefer to do femtoLASIK rather than SMILE. And high cylinders, I prefer to do SMILE. Mixed astigmatism, you don't have protocol to do the SMILE procedures. Hyperopia and very low powers, I still prefer to do a femtolasic. And tracking is an issue with SMILE, so femtolasic we can believe upon. And the next thing is, if at all the suction loss happens while doing the SMILE procedure, if it is within the first 5 seconds, you need to convert the patient either into the femtolasic or postpone the surgery for 3 months. If the suction loss happens after 5 minutes, again the machine automatically deviates you into the femtolasic. But if the suction loss happens while doing femto, you can just change the parameters, increase the thickness, reduce this thing on the same sitting. Within 5 minutes you can finish off the procedure. And while doing the SMILE, if you have difficulty to remove the lenticule, which usually doesn't happen with the surgeons, but if at all, if you have failure to remove or you have lenticular tear, lenticular perforation, you have to postpone the case for 3 months, either do a femto or the surface ablation or a topographic procedure. But this thing doesn't happen with femtolasic. Thank you.